Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back to our channel. My name is Beck. I am the founder of the group coaching membership Dare Darling. We have just had our first call this week and I am so delighted and honored and humbled to meet these women, and I'm so excited to think about how this work is going to unlock them, help them express themselves and assert themselves and actually show up in their integrity, not being dragged down or pulled in different ways by all the guilt and the fear and the doubt and the criticism that so often takes our integrity away from us. So I'm just over the moon this week, and this is actually in part what inspired this video. And this is a bit of a vulnerable share video for me. This is talking about my struggles and challenges in a place that I got disempowered and I was getting hurt on the way to this point. And I've spoken more about that in the first video, so I highly recommend you go back and watch that. I will add a link up here so you can easily click on that video and watch that one first. And in today's video, I'm going to continue that story. And my goal is to give you a relatable example of how I got tricked by this trap in my life so that you can hopefully identify it more easily in your life. And secondly, very importantly, to help you realize that if you're going through something like this, you're not alone. And that's one of the major benefits of a group coaching membership, that we stop drawing the false conclusion that there's just something wrong with us and that's why this is happening, which then leads to us naturally stopping and giving up, as opposed to recognizing that these things can be normal human dilemmas, challenges, struggles, obstacles, that if you see them just as that, as obstacles, you can actually overcome and get through. And you might need to build some skill along the way, you might need to adjust some of your models of the world, and that is what I am here for as your mindset coach, to help you overcome those obstacles in a really strategic, constructive, productive, and efficient, and sustainable way. All right, so let's continue with the story. So in the last video, I was talking about how I'd done all the right things and still I could not control this person. And the position that left me in when I wasn't managing my mind, when I wasn't being aware and watching myself and watching this cycle, was that I was feeling very hurt. I was feeling alone. I was feeling like they didn't care. I was feeling like, from that place, drawing conclusions of, well, maybe this isn't something to care about. Maybe this isn't something to celebrate. Maybe I shouldn't be stressed or distressed about this. Maybe this isn't that hard. Maybe I'm just making a big deal out of this. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe there's something wrong with me because I'm making a big deal out of this. Maybe I'm actually just not cut out for this, as evidenced by all of that. So this was all happening below my level of awareness. And luckily for me, because of my coaching experience, I was able to catch that happening and bring it all up and see and decide to do something different with it, instead of just believing and therefore obeying those thoughts, acting them out as if they were true. As much as it was understandable that I would feel hurt or sad or disappointed in that situation, the truth was I had a lot of work to do. And I wanted to show up for my people. I wanted to show up for my mission during that time. And perhaps, you know, in the future, there might be more time where I want to sit and grieve and think about maybe something else that I want to do or change in that situation. For now, or for that period of time, because I wanted to be able to show up and I wanted to be able to support myself, see myself, and celebrate myself, this hurt and disempowerment was in direct conflict with what I actually wanted. So there are two things that I did here to give myself back control when I had given it away, when I was letting myself be hurt and disempowered based on what somebody else did or didn't do. The first thing that I did, which is counterintuitive, is I actually sat with myself and I validated myself. I remember walking around the park one night when I was walking my dog and noticing myself feeling sad about those things. And with all of my practice through mindset coaching, I had been able to see that happening and get out of being the person who was just feeling that sadness and get into the place of somebody watching myself feel that sadness. And with that, I used the self-compassion that I've been practicing to say, gosh, That is so understandable. Gosh, I am sorry and I'm sad that you're feeling sad. I see you. Hear that? I see you. And I understand why you're feeling that way. And it's not unreasonable for you to feel that way. And notice how, as I was doing that, what I was doing was I was seeing and supporting myself. And I can't tell you how different it felt to be walking around the park 1 minute, feeling that sadness and kind of resisting it and thinking that with that sadness, something was going terribly wrong. And then in the next moment, flipping to having that sadness still, but approaching that sadness with this validation and this kindness that I was, this compassion. And when I did that, I suddenly was released from all the heaviness of that sadness, and I could think again. I started to feel lighter and lighter and lifted up from that sadness. I went from feeling disempowered and stuck, powerless, to feeling a bit more empowered, a bit more in control, and a bit more lighter and flexible with my thinking. And that's the key. I didn't have to suddenly feel positive or even neutral. I could still feel negative there, but I got a little bit more power back in that situation. And that incremental step is the start of you coming up and out of that total disempowerment. Now, the second thing I did was from there, I had more ability to start being more strategic with what I was actually thinking. So I started to direct my mind to what I wanted to think based on how I wanted to feel, based on how I wanted to act, right? I used the cognitive program to decide, well, if I want to show up in this behavior and I want to feel this way, then what thoughts will actually help get me what I want? And this was the thing that allowed me to celebrate myself by myself, because what I really wanted was to be celebrated. I wanted to recognize what I've done, and I wanted to enjoy that and not leave any piece of value or any good thing on the floor, in the garage, in a box gathering dust. I wanted to see it for what it was and really take that special moment and give it the recognition that it deserved. And I was simply mistaken before that I needed anybody else to do that, that I needed anybody else to help me think that way, so I could feel that way, so I could behave that way. Those thoughts could come just from me. And as long as I was thinking that I needed somebody else to do it for me, I needed somebody else to validate it for me, I needed somebody else to agree that it was worth celebrating, I was totally disempowered, giving up my ability to celebrate and appreciate. And here's the thing, when I switched into the mode of celebrating myself, suddenly, when I really got into that mode, when I really used those cognitive programs to create that for myself, there was no longer a wanting for somebody else to come and join me, because I already had enough. I was mistaken before, and I cannot express that enough, because for a lot of us, we wouldn't celebrate by ourselves. We would never appreciate without somebody else validating that appreciation. But if you take this experiment, if you take it on and you practice celebrating yourself and you really learn to celebrate yourself, you'll realize that once you're in that place, you don't even want anybody else to join you. There's not that wanting. It's not that you wouldn't welcome them in to join you if they came along, but you don't need it anymore. You're full. The threshold has been hit. The cup is full. There's not a needing. There's not a deficit. And I think so many of us forget that we can do that ourselves. We've been taught that we need other people to validate us and appreciate us. And so we never even show ourselves. We never even create the opportunity to do it ourselves and see that we can do it ourselves. And I'm actually coming up to my 30th birthday in the next couple of weeks, and I've been thinking about, you know how you go through these milestone birthdays and you think about, how have I changed? What lessons have I learned? What do I want to keep in the next period and era? What do I want to leave behind? And I think that was one of probably the biggest lessons from my 20s, that I think I definitely came into my 20s believing that I needed other people to show up a certain way for me. And I used to be so incredibly controlled by validation, whether it was thinking that I had done a good job or I hadn't done a good job. I was very influenced by other people's opinions and how other people showed up. And as much as it's lovely when it happens in the right way and it feels great, the flip side of that is it's incredibly empowering when you inevitably don't have people showing up how you want them to show up, which is understandable. They're over there living their own life, doing their own thing. We are not the centers of other people's worlds, but it's important that we become a central, important part of our own world, and we start to do those important things for ourselves. So one of my main lessons, I think, from my 20s is not only that I don't need that recognition and validation or support of somebody else, but also that the recognition and validation and celebration of myself from myself is unmatched. It cannot be filled by somebody else. There is nothing that can replace you doing that for yourself. So my beautiful friends, I hope talking about that trap that I recently fell into is helpful for you. And please don't beat yourself up or be judgmental of yourself if you fall into this trap and you've done so recently and you didn't even realize. Like I said, I've been doing this work for years, probably a decade now, and I still fall into these traps too, because we can't constantly be self-aware, we can't constantly be mindful, and our emotions are so compelling. They can just get us carried away in the moment. And instead, I just want you to recognize, I want you to flag the moment that you get awareness, even of doing something that you don't like. I want you to flag that as a moment of celebration. That is like, yes, I got aware, I got mindful. Just the fact that I got mindful, even of doing something I don't like, is a massive win. And that kind of attitude is going to help you keep looking and not make you want to avoid looking, because you will be judging yourself. All right, my beautiful friends, give this one a thumbs up if it was useful and you want to see more videos like this. Let me know down below any other topics that you'd love for me to talk about, and I will see you guys in my next one.